was supposed to be a routine dive. I'd done hundreds like it, working on a tugboat off the coast of Nigeria, checking underwater equipment. The weather had been calm all day, and the sea had been smooth. There was no sign of what was to come. Little did I know, the next 3 days would be absolute hell. I was about 30 meters down when it hit. A massive, violent wave smashed into the boat, without any warning. It was as if the sea had suddenly woken up, angry. I remember the sheer force throwing me against the hull, the equipment rattling around me. In a split second, everything was in chaos. Before I could react, I was thrown from the boat, my body whipped around by the violent current, completely disoriented. I tried to grab hold of something, anything, to stabilize myself, but I was already falling, sinking into the deep, dark waters. I had no idea where the surface was. The water roared around me, pushing me down further. My mask was fogging up. I couldn't see clearly. My heart was racing, panic rising in my chest. I kicked desperately to swim upward, but the currents were too strong. As I struggled, the realization hit me. The boat had flipped. It was sinking fast, dragged down by the weight of its own metal frame. The thought of getting trapped beneath it made my blood run cold. I fought to stay calm. I knew that panicking would burn through my oxygen faster. If I lost control, I'd drown within minutes. But staying calm, when your body is screaming at you to survive, is easier said than done. Suddenly, I hit something hard. I was slammed against the boat's hull as it was dragged deeper into the ocean. The impact knocked the wind out of me. For a moment I thought I was done for. My lungs were on fire, gasping for air, but there was none. All I could see around me was cold, black water. The world spun as I was dragged down with the wreck. For what felt like an eternity, I tumbled in the water, helpless. My body tossed around like a rag doll, limbs flailing uselessly as I tried to grab onto something. Finally, the boat settled on the ocean floor with a dull thud. I was trapped. My heart pounded in my ears, my chest burning from holding my breath. Every second felt like a countdown to death. I kicked as hard as I could, trying to free myself from the wreckage, but I was pinned. My air supply was almost gone. My mind screamed at me to breathe, but there was no air, just freezing water and twisted metal. And then, in the midst of the darkness, I saw it, a faint shimmer of light. I squinted through the murky water, following the glow. It led me to a tiny air pocket, trapped inside the hull. It wasn't much, barely enough to fit my head, but it was enough to keep me alive. I pushed myself into the pocket and gasped for air. My lungs finally filled with precious oxygen. The relief was instant, but short-lived. I was alive for now, but still trapped 100 feet beneath the surface, and the boat was sinking deeper by the minute. The cold started to set in. It was bone-chilling, seeping through my wetsuit, into my skin. I tried to move my limbs to keep the blood flowing, but the tight space made it impossible. My body began to shake uncontrollably, the cold gnawing at my muscles. Time became a blur. I had no idea how long I'd been down there. Minutes. Felt like hours. My only focus was on breathing. Slow, shallow breaths. I knew I had to conserve the air, but the overwhelming urge to suck in deep, panicked breaths was almost too much to fight. I was trapped in a nightmare. My world had shrunk to the size of that tiny air pocket. I thought about my family. I thought about what I'd never get to do. The ocean was silent around me, and I was alone. So very alone. Just when I thought I couldn't hold on any longer, I heard something, a distant muffled sound. At first I thought I was hallucinating, but then I heard it again. It was coming from above. Someone was looking for me. Hope surged through me, giving me a burst of energy. I began banging on the hull, using every last ounce of strength I had left. My fists were raw, bleeding, but I didn't care. I had to let them know I was alive. Then I saw a glimmer of light again. This time, stronger. It was a diver. They'd found me. Relief washed over me, but the fight wasn't over yet. The rescue was a race against time. They had to get me out before my air pocket ran dry. The diver signaled to me, and I felt a wave of hope. But I knew that one wrong move could collapse the wreck and crush us both. We moved slowly, methodically, as they assessed the situation. Finally, they secured a rope around me. I felt the tension as they pulled me upward, slowly lifting me out of my watery prison. Every second felt like an hour, but I was moving toward life, toward the surface. The pressure on my body was unbearable. My muscles ached, and the cold was still biting deep into my bones. But I kept going, focusing on the faint light filtering down from above. And then, after what felt like an eternity, we broke the surface. The blinding light of the sun hit me, and I gasped for air. Real air. It tasted sweeter than anything I'd ever known. I was pulled onto the rescue boat, shivering, exhausted but alive. I collapsed on the deck, my body finally giving in. The ordeal was over, but the memory of those long hours trapped in the dark would stay with me forever.